Over the years, Spider-Man has swung into the hearts of fans around the world with his iconic red and blue suit and incredible wall-crawling abilities. Spider-Man's design has evolved and captured the imagination of generations. In this journey through time and artistry, we will explore the evolution of Spider-Man's designs, showcasing the web-slinger's iconic costumes and the creative minds behind them. So put on your spidey senses and join us as we delve into the web of Spider-Man's ever-changing style. Just to be clear, we are going to discuss the evolution in the comics only. We are not going through a movie or a TV show. Also, we are only going to discuss the main red and blue suit for Peter. We won't go through anything other than that. Lastly, this video is going to be split into 2 parts, so stay tuned for part 2. Thanks for your patience. Enjoy. In 1962, a young writer named Stan Lee, with an artist named Steve Ditko, were working to get a new character for the Marvel Universe. But the idea of Spider-Man got rejected by Marvel's publisher. After a while, Stan Lee put Spider-Man in Amazing Fantasy, which was a dying series just to get it off of his head. The issue was written by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko designed Spider-Man. After a while, sales were through the roof, and then Spider-Man came a thing and had his own series. The thing that not all people know, Spider-Man had a design made by Jack Kirby before Dick, but his version didn't make it to the comics. There are no pictures of his design, but according to some of the employees who saw his design, this is the closest we can get. Spider-Man here wears a helmet instead of a mask and shoots web from his gun. This is the end of this era. Let's get into the next one. Steve Ditko took Kirby's suit and redesigned it. He made the helmet a mask with white eyes. He replaced the gun with the iconic web shooters we all know and love, put a black spider symbol on his chest, and added wing-like webs under his arm which helped him glide a little bit and be more balanced. Something that is extremely noticeable is that the blue places on the suit are not blue in this design. They are black with highlights of blue. Also, sometimes these places turn to be purple in daily light, and other times they turn blue depending on the circumstances. Also, the spider symbol on the back, as we all know, is red, but in Amazing Fantasy, when Spider-Man first appeared, the spider was blue, but after Spider-Man got his own comic, they changed the symbol to become red. In this era, a lot of Spider-Man villains made their first appearance in the Marvel Universe, like Dr. Octopus, the Lizard, the Vulture, the Green Goblin, and many more. Now that's enough for this era. Let's get to the next one. The Classic Era is the longest era of them all. It ran for 22 years. In 1966, Steve Ditko left Marvel and John Romita took his place and redesigned the suit. Even though Spider-Man's design looks familiar to the original one, there are some major differences. Firstly, the blue parts of the suit are now blue instead of black with blue highlights. Secondly, he made Spider-Man eyes straighter and made the webbing on the suit more symmetrical and is now less on the suit. Finally, he dropped the underarm web like wings. Many of the major things that happened to Peter happened in this era. The death of Gwen Stacy was one of the most things that had an impact on Peter's life. She was killed by the Green Goblin, and Peter couldn't save her. Also, Peter getting the black suit was during this era, which just had the design of his suit covered in black with a little bit of blue highlight and the Venom symbol on the chest and back. Lastly, Peter during this time marries Mary Jane, which marked a major milestone in Peter's personal life. This design is the most familiar one of all designs, especially for 90s and 2000s kids, because it has appeared in the Spider-Man animated TV show in the 90s. The show made sure the designs looked very familiar to the ones in the comics. It also appeared in many video games that were released in that era. I think that this is enough for this era. Let's jump into the next one. In this era, Todd McFarlane redesigned Spider-Man and made him a lot different than before. Spider-Man's eyes are now much bigger, and the black outline around his eyes are thick. The red now is a little bit darker. The web pattern on the suit is now much thicker. Also, the web-like wings are now back with this design. And finally, the blue areas in the suit are now back to being black with blue highlights. During this era, two of the most popular villains of Spider-Man first appeared. The first one is Venom, which became one of the most important Spider-Man character of all time. The other one is Carnage, which is the offspring of Venom and is a lot stronger. Sometimes Spider-Man and Venom had to team up to beat Carnage. Now, to be clear, there are two designs that were in this era. The second one is a more fit Spider-Man, with big eyes with a thinner black outline, and the blue areas are blue in this suit. This design started to appear more in the late 90s, and this one is maybe the most popular design of Spider-Man. It was in a lot of games and posters. This is the end of this era. Into the next one. This era is called Ultimate because it refers to the Ultimate Universe, which is a separate universe from the main universe that had the main Peter Parker as Spider-Man, the one who we were talking about. Now, the Ultimate Spider-Man is a young Peter Parker with a new design and a new storyline. The design differs from an artist to another, but in general his eyes were very big, he had bright blue areas in the suit, and he had no underarm web. The main Spider-Man during this era had different designs. In the late 90s, as we said before, Spider-Man had this design. They continued with it, but they removed the underwebs and made the blue areas brighter. In 2000, a new design was seen in the comics, which had a little aggressive eyes, and was a little bigger from the last design. From 2001 to 2007, two designs were in the comics. The first one is a mixture between the one in the 2000 and the one in the late 90s. He has the same aggressive kind of looking eyes, but they are big like the late 90s Spider-Man, and the shape of his body is between the two designs. Depending on the artist, his eyes may sometimes be smaller. The next one has a thin body type and a darker color of red. Also, the eyes here are smaller, and the upper black outline is thicker than the usual. Also, the underarm web makes a return on this design. I tried my best to not make any mistakes with the info I got, and I hope I didn't. That's the end of part 1. Stay tuned for part 2. Thanks for watching.